Welcome to Security Live. Thank you so much for joining. I'm your host. My name is Brian Mendenhall. I work at AWS as a security partner specialist on the worldwide specialist team. This show, Security Live, brings together the world's top security experts from our partner network, along with AWS, to talk about all things the latest and greatest in security. We are so excited to have you with us here today. And if you're with us, put into chat where it is that you are joining us from. I would love to see who's on the North Pole. If you're on the North Pole, put it in chat. I want to hear about it. I want to say hello. I want to sneak in my Christmas list. I know it's April. Let's get it in early. I am not alone. I actually am alone. Actually, to start, Rob Hale's not here. If you're looking for Rob Hale, I sabotaged his internet because this is my solo artist launch. Okay. So sorry about your internet, Rob. We will miss you. Godspeed, buddy. But I am not alone. We do have a partner with me. And so I'd like to welcome Tim Chase from Orca. Tim, if you are there, blink twice, buddy.
I'm here. I'm good, man.
Tim, thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, Tim Chase. I'm a field CISO at Orca Security. I've been here for a while and been in the cloud and AppSec space for a long time, man.
That's awesome. Tell me a little bit more about what is it that you do at Orca? What's your role? What are you seeing in your role?
Yeah, I think in my role, my job is to kind of help companies solve their security problems. Right? It's kind of like understand from CISOs and security leaders what they're seeing, what they're facing, and then ultimately see how Orca can help. But just in general, I've built security programs from the ground up. I've reported to boardrooms, all of the things, right, in my CISO life. And so I like to just go to customers and say, hey, kind of what are the problems that you're seeing? It could be from cloud security to AI security to AppSec. And let's figure out a way to maybe help. And just, a lot of customers are seeing similar things. So I can bring in experience from one customer to another and say, here's what worked over here, right? We understand that you're having a problem prioritizing what you're working on. Well, here's, 3 or 4 ways that you can work on that and fix that. So I spend a lot of time just hearing from customers what they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
That's amazing. And perfect timing for this show, right? Like 2 weeks after RSA, like all the buzz, all the things are the ideation is happening across the industry. What's happening at Orca? What is Orca seeing? What is Orca doing? What's the latest and greatest that's happening on your side?
Yeah, I mean, probably no surprise that we are doing some things in the AI space, right?
But all right, wait, we're 3 minutes and 39 seconds in, and we said AI. I think that's about average. It feels right. I think it is. Yeah, I think we're doing
good. What I'll say is we're trying to help them, solve the actual problems as it relates to AI in their environment, right? And so I think what's kind of new over here is that we're trying to help customers understand how they're using AI security inside of their workload, inside of their clouds. When I look kind of back on cloud security and when cloud first started, obviously I think we're seeing it's sort of a similar thing, right? Anytime you have a new technology that's kind of groundbreaking like AI, I think you kind of go through some of the same processes of the shadow AI, figuring out, okay, now we're going to deal with the security posture management. Okay, now we're going to deal with the runtime. But the way that Orca is talking about it and dealing with it is like, look, AI security isn't just a point in time; it's all throughout the life cycle. And so when you look at what we talked about at RSA, that's really where we focus, right? So we talked about we released a couple of new agentic agents that can help you. They're kind of, we call them like deep agents, but it's like, when you get a SOC alert, the agent can really do the investigation for you to help understand, is this a true issue you should be focusing on? And here are some of the TTPs that we found that show you that it is an actual issue, right? And then same on the flip side, it's like, on our SaaS product, we've all done SaaS before, and SaaS has become a dirty word at times because it's laden with false positives. 10 years ago, we were sending PDFs over to our developers, so they hated us. But these days with SaaS, finding ways to speed it up and be accurate is key. And we've got like this AI triage agent that we announced that helps you do on critical and highs. We'll kind of do a deep dive into the alerts to be like, okay, well, you know what? At first, I thought this was a SQL injection, but after I actually followed it through for several more method calls, I can see that you are actually looking at the parameterization and doing it correctly, right? So
Nice.
we focus on the agents there. And then um, we've got the other part that I would say is we're trying to help customers be efficient by helping them prioritize. So we have something that we release called Mission Control, which basically looks across your environment, your cloud environment, your vulnerabilities, your posture, your runtime, and it says, okay, like here's your security score. You're at 85. If you want to get to an 88, here's a mission that you can undertake that will raise your security score. It will kill, 20 critical vulnerabilities, 7 mediums, so on and so forth. And it's kind of these missions that you can undertake that will help you remediate the things inside of your environment. Because obviously, I think we can all sit here and talk about the fact that people are having problems prioritizing and fixing, and then AI is really only making that worse because things are coming a lot quicker. So that's kind of some of the things that we announced and talked about at RSA.
It's funny, Tim. As you're talking, I was just reminiscing a little bit over the last, I want to say it was like 4 or 5 years. There's been this statement in the industry that we just don't say anymore, but we just do, is doing more with less. You remember like a couple of years ago, it was like we need to do more with less, like the cybersecurity skills gap and shortage of talent in the industry to be able to hire college grads coming out of college and making, $1 billion a year in order to be like a SOC analyst. And so now we don't say that so much anymore. It sounds like because of solutions like this. And also, before I go any further, my producers are poking me with a stick just off screen here. You can't see them. They're very short. Is acronym alert. I forgot to set the ground rules before we got started. Any acronyms? Yeah, there it is again. Is any acronyms that are not common knowledge? We want to make sure that we enunciate. So TTPs, tactics, techniques, and procedures. SaaS, software as a service. Things like AI, I think fly by. I think we're good there. But anyways, back to the point that you're making, Tim, is that like we have these tools, these things now exist, right? Where like doing more with less is fully possible with the right tools and the right solutions in place. And I guess kind of what I'd like to hear is this about like securing the AI workloads, the AI stacks, the LLMs, the large language models, or the MCPs, the model context protocol servers? Or is it about like shoring up your security estate, the controls that you have in place with smarter, better, more robust tools? Is it both? Like what is it that we should be focusing on as security practitioners?
Yeah, I think it's both, to be honest with you. So one of the things that I like to talk about, and you can, I actually wrote something about this on our website. So if you want to follow the QR code, you can go there and look, and talks about AI for security and security for AI. But I think one of the things we need to be careful of when we're looking at and talking about AI security is acknowledging the fact that it's not like a point in time of security. Like if you look at typically how we have done security in the past, when we started with cloud security, it was all about security posture management, right? Just understanding, do we have any ports open? And then eventually we realized, oh crap, we should focus on the runtime too. That's also important. Oh, well, you know what? Let's shift back left and look at the infrastructure as code. When all of us know today that true cloud security is kind of this thing that spans the life cycle. And I think we need to think about that when it comes to AI as well, right? We have a lot of point solutions when it comes to AI security. Maybe we're looking at the prompts and we're looking at the prompt security. Maybe we're understanding the roles and permissions that go to the AI services. But in actuality, the way that you should be looking at it in your organization is that it's all through the software development lifecycle, right? And so all the way from, when I've got Cursor running on this laptop beside me, right? Understanding which developers are running Cursor and how much of your code is AI generated versus human generated, and where the vulnerabilities are coming from. It's looking at the vulnerabilities and using AI to not only write code, but look for security issues. Like I talked about the AI triage agent earlier. Then it kind of goes into the posture management. Like what AI services are you using inside of your environment? Do you know where you're using Bedrock, right? Do you know what roles do you have attached to it? Do you know what data that the AI services can access, right? Knowing that whole thing is super important. And then ultimately, it's the runtime as well. It's inside of your workloads. Are you running an EC2 instance that has an MCP server running, or that you're running maybe a different LLM on a workload? And do you know what data that they have access to, right? And looking for things like prompt injection and data exfiltration and things like that. So what I would say is it's kind of one way to look at it is it's all of the above, right? Understanding it through the life cycle, but it's also helping your teams be more efficient. So using security, using AI for security. So you talked about you can't find enough. We were pulling college grads out and all of that, right? And we've talked about kind of the security the resource shortage for a while. But I think kind of where we're at right now is, we have too many alerts that we can't work our way through. And so we have to find ways to be more efficient, to know how to prioritize and what we need to work on. And I think we had burnout, I would say, like, especially like on the SOC side or looking at the alerts, because they were bored. It was tedious. They were having to manually create all these alerts. Well, that's where AI can really help you do the investigation. And so it's more about like making sure that your resources are actually doing the things that they're meant to do, the things that they enjoy, right? I was talking with someone yesterday, and we are like, well, now it's a little bit more fun because you can use AI to do queries on all of this data and really get to the bottom of what the alert is actually about, right? So it's about making your teams more efficient and doing those things that they want to do, rather than just kind of slogging through all of the alerts and all of the logs.
Absolutely. So it's like taking that tedious kind of mundane life, like eyeball gouging tasks out of your day to do
Mhm.
the higher value, the more fun stuff, right? Which is
Yes.
like I've seen like the gamified version of threat detection where it's like, you're shooting down the asteroids, or what was that game from like the 80s where Atari.
Yeah, yeah.
Somebody in chat help me, right? You're like
Mhm.
you're just that spaceship that's moving around shooting down the bad actors. But like if that was work, if that was threat detection, sign me up. Like I'm
Yeah.
definitely down to do that, right? But it's that higher value, like more kind of interesting part of the job, I think, that we're all after.
Yeah. And it's
Tim,
not, we've talked a lot about like AI replacing jobs and things like that. But like when I look at it in the security industry, that's, I don't know that that's where it's ultimately going. I think it's going to be about like just helping us to be the better version of what we can be in our jobs.
Eerie edits, thank you. Asteroids, that's exactly what I
Oh,
was
yeah.
thinking. You win a gold star for today. I don't have an actual gold star. It's an imaginary one. I'll Kira one up for you. But also while I'm here, if you're watching this, put some questions in chat. Let's grill Tim. Let's see what we got. Fire something up. Grill me. I promise you I will punt, but put some questions in chat, and we'll bring those up on screen. Um, Tim, super interesting stuff. So it's what I've seen of life cycle on the AWS side that's kind of gone from 4 or 5 years ago, asking security practitioners, are the tools that we have in place 5 years ago sufficient for the attacks that we expect to see with bad actors leveraging AI? And at the time, the response I got was bad actors aren't using AI, and the tools that we have in place will be fine. Rewind or fast forward just a little bit, to like maybe a year or two ago,
Yeah.
the tools we have in place are the right tools, but they need to be like AI-ified, right? Whether that's large language models, it's MCPs, it's agents, it's kind of like, that kind of the state we're in now. And at RSA last week, and what I'm starting to hear this week is a little bit of like, we kind of need to rethink security completely. Like, maybe it's not the traditional tools of like, if all you have is a hammer, everything is a nail, but like this kind of reconceptualization of security tooling in the landscape that we're in, because AI on the security side is becoming holistic, right? It's becoming your cloud native application protection platform, your CNAP
Mhm.
across everything, and it does the threats, it does the vulnerabilities like you're describing. Are you seeing something similar on your side where like security is becoming holistic and rethought?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I am seeing a couple of things. One is I am seeing the AI security is kind of getting rolled into CNAP, right? When you look at CNAP, I think there's always the question of, is this CNAP or is that CNAP? Is AI security part of CNAP or not? Is uh, DSPM, is that part of CNAP or not? Right? Like I
Yeah.
think there's always that question at the very beginning. But I'm seeing just from talking with analysts and customers that AI security is kind of being rolled into it, because ultimately, in order to be able to act on these modern threats, I think you have to have all of the data in the context to be able to act on them quickly, right? I think a lot of times we focus on CNAP as being just tool consolidation for the sake of tool
Mhm.
consolidation, and that is good. But I think ultimately what you're after with CNAP is the data model. You want all of this data together into this unified model, so that you've got the data from the static application scanners, from the libraries, the vulnerabilities, the posture, all of this stuff together, so that you can ultimately act more intelligently on it. And so AI security is kind of getting rolled into that, because if you think about it, a lot of the AI services are just an extension of the cloud service, right? Bedrock is a service that AWS offers. And so it kind of just fits into that. And that's what we're seeing as well. So I say that because I think ultimately when we start to rethink security for AI, one of the key things is like there's a couple of things. One is you have to be quick, right? Like, when we moved from the data centers to the cloud, speed was an issue. When we're going from the cloud and then adding in AI, speed is most definitely an issue.
Yeah.
Meaning you have to be able to respond quickly to adapting threats, new threat actors, new threat models, and things like that. And so I think that's where we're having to rethink security a little bit. And the way that you ultimately, I think, deal with that is like they have to use AI for the good guys. So you use AI for having these agents that can do some of the work for you. You have AI on the CDR alerts, AI to do quick code review and code fixes, right? You use it for the good on your side. And so I think a couple of the things that I'm seeing shift a little bit maybe is you're having to integrate that into your existing tooling. So when you're thinking about what CNAP do I use, you ask yourself, what can they do to help me secure AI? When you're looking at your static application scanners, like your SaaS tools, then that's how are they helping me secure my AI code, right? So, and ultimately, you're looking to fix all of this. You're going to have to fix it quickly, and in order to fix it quickly, as much context has to happen, it has to be there as possible, right? So if we're responding to potential AI alerts in our SOC, and you're looking at a CDR alert, a CDR alert just saying that we think there's a suspicious activity on this workload is not going to be enough, right? Because your AI is not going to be able to action on that. And if it does, it's not going to do it intelligently, because AI needs as much context and data as possible.
Mhm.
But if you're using CNAP and you've aggregated all this together, where you know that not only is this workload potentially has a malware on it, but I can tell you what data it has access to, how the malware got on there through a specific vulnerability, what fixes are available for it, all of this data, that then your AI agents can go, oh, well, I can help you, tell you an exact path of how you fix it. So I think
Yep.
it's about like speed and context when it comes to like rethinking security in an AI world.
Yeah. No, you're touching on so many interesting points, Tim. Like this kind of like security data backplane, right? That connects all of your security estate together. And that's it's I'm gonna put my tinfoil hat on for just a second. I tend to do this at least once a show, is like if all of our security controls are consolidating to a singular platform with a data backplane or a data backbone that's pumping data back and forth and taking actions, kind of remediating and doing all these things. So now it's pulling in vulnerability data, your exposure management of like what could go wrong, what is going wrong, how do I fix, how do I shore up, like do I have the right tools in place, do I need to put something together? And the rate at which these attacks are coming in are now at the speed of AI, right? And I think you
Mhm.
touched on that. Super interesting, of like the average mean time to detect and mean time to respond. it's gone from like, from like months, days, weeks, down to like you have to respond in seconds, like faster than any human being could ever do. And so now we're getting to this state. If you extrapolate out and look at where we're going, like in the near future, it's almost like we need all the security controls in one place, all the data, all of the ability to make the changes, and throw some AGI or artificial general intelligence on top of that bad boy in order to be able to respond. And you kind of get to the state of like the robot wars, like our robot, our AI versus like the bad guy's robot, the bad guy's AI. And then we're kind of just like, what we're feeding the robots, I think.
Yeah.
And we become like these maintainers of AI. The tinfoil hat for sure. But are we tracking along that direction, or am I just going too far down the rabbit hole?
No, you're not tinfoil hatting at all. I think that it's always been kind of that same sort of game, right? It's always been a balance of the attackers will do something, we'll have to figure it out. We'll figure it out. The attackers will do it. I mean, all the way back. I mean, just to be maybe a little bit simplistic about it, just think back to our early days of virus scanning, right, on workloads. It was very much hash based, signature based. And then the attackers went, oh, well, I can do maybe instead of doing that, I can modify the signature every time, or I can maybe just kind of custom design some malware. And then so we switched to like the modern EDR platforms that are more behavioral detection, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then now they've got some ways to get around that. So it's always this kind of back and forth. But I do think that just like with everything, AI just accelerates the timeline and makes it faster, right? And I'll be honest, like a couple of years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I was one of those folks that was like, oh, I think AI is going to help us more than it will the bad guys. But I think the bad guys are really adapting, and they're doing a lot of interesting things with it, and we're having to kind of counteract that. And I think it's going to continue. And then it'll happen again, like if we ever get to this quantum world, right, where we've got the encryption we're dealing with, and the mass amounts of speed, like then we're going to be figuring out how to figure that out. And I think AWS is doing a really good job of pushing folks to that early, by the way. And so I think it'll be kind of that cat and mouse game there as well. And so I do. It's not tinfoil hat. I think it's. I definitely think that we're there, because it's a lot of the attacks that we're seeing are on the supply chain, and they're doing. They're infiltrating the supply chain, getting around the identity part of things, because we're so good at the runtime part. So I think you're right. I think you're spot on.
I appreciate the plug for AWS AI services. I will slide that $5 bill across the table, the virtual table. So I appreciate that. I get a checkbox every time one of our partners says something positive about AI. I'm just kidding, but it is interesting to see like this progression, Tim, of let's touch on like the bad guys using AI for just a second. And I remember, and I say this because I remembered like the week that ChatGPT went online, I was at an MSSP and we saw a spike in DDoS attacks, distributed denial of service attacks, 700% in a month at the MSSP across our customer base. And we were like, something's broken in our systems. Like we have some wires crossed somewhere and we were doing something horribly wrong. It was like an all hands on deck moment. And so we actually called our competitors, the other MSSPs in the industries, and just said, hey, are you seeing this? Like, are we crazy, or is this actually happening? And everybody else is like, we're seeing it too. Basically, the moral of the story is, as soon as a generative AI thing came online, people were like, I can generate data and throw it at an adversary, right? Like that was an immediate use case. And since then, there are additional use cases that we have been emerging. And I'm curious to hear from your perspective. You guys see everything from everybody everywhere. Where are you seeing some of the bad guys using generative AI in attacks? So like, where should our practitioners that are watching this, where should they be focusing?
I'll focus on it kind of on both ends of the life cycle, right? So we've written about this. Our research team has written about this a few times. So if you go to our research blog, you can read the information there. But definitely like on the supply chain side of things, right? So they're doing things along the lines of modifying, let's say, malware to where we know that there's some malware that works, and then they'll modify it, and then they'll make it work on the other system, if that makes any sense. So it's like they take the source code that they have, they use LLM to kind of modify the code to make it slightly different, and then they'll kind of deploy it. So we've seen it on the supply chain side as well, which ultimately makes it into the runtime where maybe the existing EDR systems you have can't detect it because it's slightly different, and you got to look for the behavioral detections. So we've definitely seen it there. We've seen it where I would say kind of taking advantage of looking for vulnerabilities on the supply chain, like the GitHub and all of that area, looking for maybe misconfigured GitHub repos and things like that from the mass scanning that they can do, and then they can make their way into there and bypass a lot of the authentication that's meant to be there that maybe that's not there. So we've kind of seen it on both sides where they're modifying the GitHub and looking for misconfigurations there, and then ultimately rewriting their own malware based on some existing malware, just making some small tweaks on it, and then deploying that as well. So we've seen it be where the lift to create malware is a lot less than it used to be, right? It used to be very specialized sort of niche skill set. And now with AI, you can kind of give it some instructions on, take this malware, make some small tweaks, and then people like me who aren't smart enough to build their own malware can have their own malware, right? And not that I would ever do that, but
I'm telling you, man, like one of these days, like Frank in accounting, sorry if you're watching this, Frank, I didn't mean to call you out. Some disgruntled employee somewhere that has no idea of anything that's cybersecurity related is going to fire up some malware string that is going to take down like the planet. I feel like it's going to be some unknowing person that like happens to stitch together the right circumstances of like the latest and greatest of malware plus some advanced tactics, techniques, and procedures, 0-day exploits, and this thing's going to propagate and it's just going to take over the world. I'm kind of waiting for that. I've got the bunker in the back, the bug out bag, bunch of water, good to go.
You got a guitar in there too to make sure that you can still jam in the bunker.
Yeah. People don't know. Before the show, we found out, Tim, you're is it? I'm gonna say ukulele. Is that the right?
There you go, ukulele. There you go. That's
ukulele. Right. And then we're gonna get some keyboard players, some drums. We're gonna build a band. We'll be at. I'm just gonna say no. We're gonna be at RSA next year, jamming in front of the expo hall. Let's do it, man. Oh, actually, before then, I just found out our producer pinged me on the side and said, "Hey, Orca is going to be with us at the AWS London Partners Summit, which is in like 3 weeks. Back on the show on Security Live. So
that's true.
That's awesome. Maybe then. I won't be there, unfortunately. I'm going to be skipping around Asia at that time, but Ryan Orsi is going to be there. I think we're going to have Himanshu Verma, Jacob Abbott, like the actual rock stars of the show will be there. So I think that it's going to be a good one. Before we let you go, Tim, I got to ask, all right, on an airplane, are you an aisle seat guy, a window seat guy, or are you a psychopath that sits in the middle? What's the call here?
I hate to give a non-answer. It depends on the length of the flight. I got to be honest, these days, if it's a long flight, I kind of prefer an aisle.
Yeah.
Because I like to drink coffee. So,
that's a proper choice. And you got to do like random aisle yoga. Like in close proximity to others that don't appreciate your flexibility. That's at least my move. Make other people as uncomfortable as possible. That's
100%. You got it.
Tim, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Absolutely incredible discussion. And if you want more, check out Orca Security. And we'll see you on the next show. Stick around.
Thanks, Brian.
Hey, welcome to Security Live. Thank you so much for joining. I am your host. My name is Brian Mendenhall. I work at AWS. Believe it or not, I work on the security partner specialist teams across the globe, working with small, large, medium security partners of all size. This show brings together AWS security partner experts to discuss the latest and greatest in security. Let's see how long it takes before we say AI. I am alone as your host. Normally, I'm with the wonderful, magnificent Rob Hale, except I have sabotaged his internet. I'm sorry, Rob, in order to do a solo show. This is like my Joe Walsh moment. I'm launching from the Eagles to be a solo performer, solo artist. I love you, Rob. We'll get you back, buddy. Before we go any further, let us know where you're joining us in chat. All right. I want to hear who is joining us from Mars or the moon or something other random place. I want to know. I want to hear about it. Put it in chat, and I will give you a shout up and a virtual high five. I am not alone. I am here with Naresh Persaud. Naresh, are you with us?
I'm with you, Brian. Yep. No, sorry, my audio cut out there, and so I jumped back in. Yep. I'm back.
You are all good, my friend. Voice of an angel. I'm so glad you're here with us. Thank you so much for joining. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Deloitte?
Yeah, so I'm a principal in cyber practice. Been in the 20-something years. I focus at Deloitte is our cyber blueprint, focused on helping clients both create solutions to secure AI and take AI to transform the capabilities within their cyber function, vulnerability management, third-party risk management, identity management, security operations, etc.
That's amazing. You cover a lot of ground over there, Naresh. Sounds like you've got a lot under your belt.
Yeah. No acronyms yet. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I always skip over this. I feel like I'm setting you up for failure if I don't say acronym alert. Any TLAs, 3-letter acronyms. We want to enunciate those before we say them. So you're dialed. You're good to go, my friend.
Good.
So tell me a little bit about what is happening at Deloitte. What is the latest and greatest? What are you guys seeing? And how can it help the security practitioners that are watching the show?
Yeah, one of the things, as we have looked across the market, our clients are doing two things. One, trying to figure out how to adapt current security architecture to address securing AI. It's clear that every function in the business is transforming to adopt it. It presents lots of challenges for security practitioners. So we're helping them deal with that problem and put new processes in secure AI. But at the same time, when you look at what's happening, the scale is completely different. I think depending on which source you read, the number of agents to humans, it'll be 2,000 to 1. I don't know how many Martians to humans that is, but like there's some polynomial formula to predict that, but regardless of how you slice it, it's a lot. And so what has to happen in conjunction with that is organizations are looking at how they take security itself and transform it to do two things. I think you highlighted some of these points earlier. Look, not enough talent. Even as you have the talent, how do you scale the knowledge very quickly? You have to now try to find geometric scale in your security operations to address these new threats. And the other issue is people using AI to drive cyber attacks. It's hard for human beings to accelerate and respond to all of that. You need sort of a way to use AI to counter the AI threats in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been interesting, Naresh, and Tim and I were just talking about this from Orca previously, is like the availability of builder tools in non-builder hands is kind of remarkable, right? Like I have absolutely every tool that I could possibly imagine. And at first you're like, I don't even know what to do with this. And you start with, I think it was mentioned in chat, the repetitive tasks, the low hanging fruit. And you're like, okay, I think I can automate some of this. If I just maybe, I don't know how to write a script, but like, hey, Kiro, go write a script that does a thing to automate this thing. And then it's like, well, now we can have agents that reach into these other things. And now I'm automating a lot of my day. And I'm like chatting with these things about ideation and strategy and like data points and all this stuff. And all of that is kind of getting shoved into the security space as well. And so are we talking that like who is building the agent, right? Is it the security experts and the world's smartest people, or is it the average Joes like me that are also like getting their hands on this stuff? And how do we reconcile different people building different things?
Yeah, I wish it was just you building the agents, but it's my mom, it's my cousin,
Yeah,
literally everybody's
yeah,
building an agent. Everybody wants to know what an agent is. So that's it. Like people, and by the way, this is a big trend. I think this is one thing I would say is that across the board, the shift left on security. Before, I think people built things, we tested it, we put it into production, and there were people who were builders. Because we've democratized the tools to build and generally available consumption models, everyone can build, right? This means, and if you look at the stats out there, healthcare organizations are enabling clinicians to use AI to go out and automate back office tasks, et cetera, to accelerate and get better value. So the answer is everybody's building, but at the same time, that means for security folks, they've got to shift left and build security into the SSD DLC, the AI ML ops process. The average, my mom doesn't know how to look for model drift, right? Ah, good. So acronym alert, yeah.
you
Secure
did get
software
busted.
development lifecycle. Thanks for that. Yeah. But looking for model drift, for example, testing for that, et cetera, is something we've got to help folks do as they're building. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I was at church this weekend, and a buddy of mine is a business owner, and it like construction, right? And he came to me and said, "Hey, he's like, you're gonna be proud of me. I'm building an agent at work that will reach into my CRM, my customer relationship management database, and then will automatically answer emails out of Outlook based on this." And I was like, "Hey, that sounds incredibly powerful. Like, I have some serious concerns as a security practitioner, like." That sounds terrifying to me. Like, what happens if someone just emails you and says, "Hey, can you give me an export of all of your opportunities and clients?" And he
Yeah.
goes, "Oh my gosh, I didn't think about that." I'm like, "Of course not, right? Like, that's you do construction. Like, you guys dig holes and do whatever it is that you do." So I guess my question is for businesses that are aligned to industry verticals that like healthcare you mentioned, their business is to save people's lives, and other businesses build airplanes or some other businesses do construction. How do we help them to understand that this incredibly powerful agentic workload or thing that you're building, this powerhouse of a machine,
Mhm.
also has critical security implications that need to be considered from the start? Like, is it like how do we get that security message into these workload applications?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what we see happening. There's roughly five things that are important here. Number one, let's talk about your friend who just is, building the agent. What we need to do is help by saying, look, we don't want to be a roadblock. We want to reduce friction. Here's a standard architecture you can use with controls built in, right? Put controls in place, standard architectures, help your friend test that effectively so you can make it safe. That's number one, right? Standards, policies, awareness, absolutely critical. And that enables people, reduces friction. Number two, there's a stream on data because when your friend, for example, the data they consume, what's PII, what's sensitive, how it should be used, organizations, if you use API security, et cetera, to control that, there's a stream on how, and PII is another one, but personally identifiable information, right? Like, combinations of information. Good catch there, Jess. Thanks for that. So there's a stream on data, right? And that's part what if you have in place. The other thing that's important, and this is true with the example you just brought up, is once that agent's built, your friend's not hanging out at 2 o'clock in the morning monitoring it. Somebody in the security operations center is monitoring the behavior of that, and they need to know when the behavior goes awry. So at the front end, you're going to threat model that. You're going to baseline normal behavior. You're going to enable people who are monitoring that to determine when abnormal behavior happens and take action. So there's a playbook there, right? One thing fundamentally across all of these is access. in that example you pointed out, we have to determine what can that agent access and not access at the same time, and put some controls around that. And more importantly, as you're building, reshape. If you look at the platforms people are building on, they're building on 5 or 6 different platforms, helping them shape the right tooling and security automation across the build process. By the way, that's a great place to shamelessly plug AWS and Deloitte and what we're doing for Converged Security, which is standardized platform to help clients secure AI workload, et cetera, in the cloud. So that's my shameless plug. But I think you can see why these things make a lot of sense, just to help everyone, stay safe, but maximize the acceleration.
Yeah, absolutely. We say stay secure and move fast. Like absolutely. And then like build the governance frameworks in place, right? That like, hey, even though he might be the CEO, maybe there's some checks and balances that kind of jump in and say, hey, like let's pause the brakes, like hit the brakes, make sure we're building this using the right tools and the data control, data security, posture management, and identity, and all these things that need to go in. Let's make sure that something like the little like red flag pops and goes, hold on just a second. There's a question in chat and it's got me thinking. So the question from Jim is, AI and regular attacks are happening together, so we can't ignore either, but redirecting resources to AI is challenging. And I like, this one is definitely personal to me, because even in my day job, it's been interesting to say, like, I've been doing this for 24 years, I think. I'm actually 75 years old. I look amazing, a lot of skin moisturizer, but I've been doing this for a long time. And I like to do it the way that I've been doing it, like my job, my work, my security. And all of a sudden, I have to completely shift and change and have this AI mindset of like, I need to be AI enabled. I need to have AI, use AI and embed AI and create AI to do my job better, faster, more efficiently. How do we reconcile I'm already at like 150% of like doing my day job, and then on top of that, I have to innovate with AI and I have to do it the right way? Like, how do we reconcile that? How do we balance that? How are you at Deloitte balancing this kind of this, I guess, balance?
Yeah, well, I'll talk that. I think in that the question was specifically related to security operations. Is that right? In that case, I would say in all of, I like this thing, the domain knowledge that you have today. Let's say you're in security operations, you're in identity management or vulnerability, et cetera. That domain knowledge is absolutely crucial, because as we AI enable everything, we're making the tools and the building of the tools very easy. What's really hard is the domain knowledge on how that's supposed to work. A level 1 SOC analyst that spent years doing that as a level 2 is absolutely critical to enabling how an AI SOC analyst works, right? Like if you take an agent, you have to train it on private data in your organization and do reinforced learning on it. Having knowledgeable people in the SOC to do that is absolutely critical, right? So number one, I think it's going to intersect with your day job. It's not like you have to go on a separate track and do it. If you're working in the SOC, you're probably going to see malware that's been created by AI. You're going to see phishing attacks that are personalized, that are hitting all of the channels where detection engineering is not very mature, and you're going to have to deal with that. So I think there's an intersection of that. But number two, because it's becoming a lot easier, I think the bar isn't very high to pick up the tools and start learning to adapt it and leverage that. The enablement on the market is scaling, at a very rapid rate. So so short answer is, look, it won't be any, in the future, there's not a group of astronauts. We're all astronauts, right? Like we're stop saying AI. It's just the way things are done. Yeah.
Any more astronaut analogies you have, Naresh? I'm in. Like, I always wanted to go to space camp as a kid. I might go at 42 years old, just to scratch that itch. But so I guess my follow-up question, Naresh, is that, as like, if we're doing a bottoms up approach of AI, building the tools, training the models, getting the AI to do the security things, if it starts at like tier 1, and then starts working its way up, surely we can expect it to like take over tier 2 or level 2 analyst or level 3, all the way through the entire like cybersecurity incident response lifecycle and framework. Is that then going to erode the foundation of security talent in the market? Right? If we're saying all the entry level positions is where we're starting at for training and development of like AI tools, is that going to erode the ability? Like, how do you then go from like 0 to hop, skip, and a leap to a level 3 analyst? How do we reconcile the issue that we may be causing, or are we not causing an issue? Will there be other opportunities in the security industry based on that?
Well, yeah, it's hard to predict the future of talent. Like I don't have the crystal ball, but here's what I'm seeing in the short term. Number one, we didn't have enough talent to begin with. The organizations that want to afford premier security operations can't have staff to do. So number one, this technology itself lets us take the talent we have and scale it so that the quantity demanded goes up, right? The quantity demanded is much higher, right? The world could be a safer place, number one. Number two, when you look at how AI, if you think about how long it takes to make a SOC analyst, it takes years, a decade of experience. These people are hard to replace. You look at threat hunters, very specialized skills, and they have to learn threat hunting on many different platforms. If we can leverage agents now as a way to scale that talent, we can mature a threat hunter faster and enable a threat hunter to do more. That's very powerful because people maybe don't want to do that for the rest of their lives. They're doing that, they're moving across other things. So back to your point, I do believe the quantity demanded is much higher. Using AI, we can address that demand and then help scale the talent better. So I think that, and by the way, I think that's across every cyber domain. And because the problem is evolving, we really want people to focus on the higher order problems. Who understands observability and explainability, right? Like someone's got to stop Skynet. We need. That's where we need to focus the attention on right now. Yeah, I'm worried about
love
Skynet.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that. And, we all need to be a little John Connor.
That's right. Well, hopefully we don't have to go back in time to stop Skynet. We stop it the first time, right? Like, but back to that problem, if you're inundated with all the activity logs and you can't, focus on, the real business challenges, that's when we miss the ball. Yeah.
Interesting. So I think it's two things. And Jim has just a fantastic comment here. I wouldn't minimize the effort of bringing AI into the process and governance. This is a major concern of many companies, especially those without developed security and governance. So just to say that, let's not minimize what it's going to take to operationalize AI for your security estate. And then the other side of that, Naresh, what I'm hearing you say is that also, like, these same tools can be used to quickly accelerate the leveling up of our talent. Is that right? Of like, hey, we should be using AI to say, like, maybe we all just skip like level 1 and just go straight to level 2 because things are moving so much faster. We now used to be like, if you get to level 10, you're good. Like your company is secure. Now we need to get to level 50, right? In order to do that, we have to get through these things faster. We need to skip steps, skip first base, go straight to second, fight Skynet. And like that's kind of the state of things, right? Like things are just happening so fast and changing so quickly. We need to leverage the tools we have to accelerate those outcomes.
Yeah, I want to acknowledge the question just now about operationalizing it. Still a challenge, right? I think people will struggle with that a little bit, putting the tools in place, getting the right monitoring, things like absolutely a challenge. But I think, I like to use a driverless car analogy here, which is, like today, even if, I'm going somewhere and I know exactly where it is, I don't like to focus on the road. I'll just put destination so that I'm listening to music. If I zone off, it'll tell me to turn right. That lets, if you think about how in level 1 analyst is, I don't have all the experience in the world, but the AI can put me back on track, right? that is tremendously beneficial. And I'm a Star Trek fan. I don't know if you are, but you
Oh,
notice how
yes, please.
there's no way we would go all the way out there 10,000 light years. Like human beings aren't calculating the formula to the sublight speed to get there and not hit a planet, right? Something else has to do that, right? And so when you think about how much, and by the way, I come back to security in this because the challenge, this is what it's like when you have X amount of humans. When you increase the number of agents to Y, right, the universe is much bigger. You need the computer, right? You always ask the computer's advice. It's still, sort of some human judgment. The potential of the human now comes from this solar system to several galaxies wide, right? Like, and that's how we have to think about it. I think on the back end of security, we're trying to reimagine human potential, but we know that the quantity demanded is much greater
Mhm.
than the supply.
That's exactly right. And Erie Edit says, "Where's the AWS holodeck? That's what I want." I feel like that's a solid, like a tee up. You put the ball on the tee for me. That's Security Hub.
But that's
You
what you
know,
need,
it's
right? Yeah, you need the Kobayashi Maru test, right? Like, so
oh my
by the way,
gosh,
that's another great example, right? Because like,
yeah.
if imagine how we train, and back to your question about talent, right? How do they create, you can't take, like Picard and say, well, like it takes decades to make him, at least since, he was around since, like forever. So they can put people in the holodeck, they can use the Kobayashi Maru to train very quickly, and that helps them mature talent faster. I think the same analogy is true here, as we march forward. Yeah.
I love that. You're 100% like the Kobayashi Maru is going to happen, right? And if you're not familiar, if you're watching this, you're like, what are these absolute nerds talking about?
That's right.
It's this
What
impossible test. It is a
yeah,
test in failure. And like, what do you do when the world collapses around you and the only in like death is imminent, right? And like
that's right.
as a security practitioner, I think that's something that we need to like know is kind of reality to an extent, and not to be like FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, but like we always say it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, right? And so you should
That's right.
have a cyber resilience plan and disaster recovery. One more I'm going to throw at you, Naresh, is con. Okay. So think about this, right? Like con is this like ultimate, all powerful, all knowing being, right? Which is also kind of the state of what we live in now
Yeah.
is like we do have some adversaries out there that are highly powerful and we just talked about that a little bit on the last one, but making sure like, do we need the Captain Jim to come along and like, is there is only one option for fighting con, or how do we replicate that? How do we yes, yes, so good. How do we like prepare for that con moment of like when the adversary shows up and like, what do we need to do to make sure that we're ready?
Yeah, look, I don't know, I think what you're talking about is the kind of the cyber event that's about to happen that we haven't predicted, and how do we come together? Like honestly, I feel like we're not going to, the one way we're not going to deal with it is alone, right?
Mm,
Collectively, it's going to be collective, right? Like every organization has to be on a journey to prepare for that. Let's say only the folks at Deloitte who are prepared for it. It's not a good world because we're not going to be able to stop it, right? It's going to infiltrate X amount of organizations, and we won't survive that. I think collectively we're all going to have to advance very quickly and mature cyber programs, leveraging AI, et cetera, to stop those threats. And that's what's happening. I mean, there's a little bit of an arms race and a maturity curve that we have to embark on.
absolutely. And so, and I love just because I'm intimately familiar with Deloitte and the converged security solution. Like
Mhm.
that's exactly what Converge does. Right now, I'm gonna like reverse plug you guys because it's actually not just about Deloitte and AWS. It's about the entire like security portfolio and delivering those holistic outcomes. Right. I mean, tell me a little
Absolutely.
bit about that.
Yeah, no. So what we have done, it is about taking the best of AWS combined with what we bring from a compliance, risk, architecture perspective to help clients sort of accelerate time to value and literally mature security faster, right? What you don't want to do is have people reinvent the wheel. We all sort of stand on the shoulders of giants at times, right? Leveraging things that make us more mature, advance the industry further, which I think is where we sort of need to go in that direction. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's not just about like this plugs that hole, or like this I need a DLP solution. I need data loss prevention. Like just plug this in. It's about like what is the right tool for the right job.
That's
And
right.
how do you operationalize that with everything else? Because we're no longer in a state of like point solutions or standalone, like plug this hole and it's done. It all has to work together. It all has to talk together, and it all has to be cohesive, right? And that's
Yeah.
exactly what you guys are doing over there.
Absolutely. And I'm trying not to go on the whole 15-minute monologue because you said you would like cut it off if I went out long. But yeah, I could talk
You're
about
doing
this
great.
forever. But yeah, but like it is. If you standardize the architecture and you come up with a standard way to operationalize it, you could leverage a managed services approach, right? Standard operating procedures, predictable outcomes, KPIs, and all of those things, right? And you could also enable your teams to deliver it. And this is actually a big part of the challenge. Once you have, the business wants to move incredibly fast, right? And the speed's only increasing. The ability to take these things, operationalize them, have full set of service. And by the way, look, imagine once you put this thing in, you have regulatory requirements to meet, you have controls, you have auditors that are coming at you trying to collect evidence from this. Putting all of that together very quickly is really important. And this is where I think, AWS and Deloitte, this partnership, really helps our clients, get value faster.
One thing I want to kind of like throw out there too, and hear your thoughts, Naresh, is that like back in the day, we used to say people process and procedures, right? People processing technology. What is it? PPT? I
Yeah,
don't remember.
PPC.
But like the idea is that it's not just the tools, and so often I feel like we continue to talk about just the tooling itself, of like AI. Like this new security widget has AI empowered. It's got LLM. It's got agents. It's like this tool, and I'm reminded of someone told me a long time ago the idea of like a fool with a tool, right? And so it talks to, it's the tool, but it's also the people. And we've talked quite a bit about the people, making sure that you're skilling up your people, you have the right people doing the right things. But then the process piece, like how do companies look at processes, procedures to make sure that like that is that the operational piece? Like what is it? Are we still talking about processes in today's day and age with AI? Is that still important?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things we've seen is that organizations that try to AI enable broken processes, it doesn't succeed. I think 40% of the projects fail because they are taking broken processes. And this is in our tech trends report, et cetera. But 40% of those like literally will fail. Because when you look at what, the ability to do cognitive consolidation, cognitive synergy, leverage common, common working agents to do multiple things, you can reimagine that entirely. And by the way, I think we're going to have to do that because much of what's evolved in security has evolved in silos. I started my career in identity management in the year 1997, a long time ago. Identity management wasn't even part of security at that point. It was part of like systems operations, right? And all of these things have aggregated under the CISO in the past, couple decades because of, as the threat landscape have grown, the CISO responsibility has grown. All of that now means we have a tremendous opportunity to break down the silos, right? When security operations agents can quickly look at identity and determine the blast radius, when security operations agents can look at the observability data of other agents and determine whether it's malicious, et cetera. Those things help us advance the cause. And so I do believe that we are in a state where we're going to reimagine those processes ground up. And like this adoption curve and the advances in the technology will help us get there.
Absolutely. Naresh, one last super quick question. If you could have one app on your phone, what would it be?
Um, I guess should I can't think of well, it should be a phone first of all, right? Like, or else I
Love
can't,
it.
if it doesn't dial, I'm done, right? Yeah. Then I don't have a phone, I
Love
don't
it.
have a communication device. Yeah. I wish it was
Yeah,
like a
primitive.
communicator. I could say, computer, locate, Brian Mendenhall and, beam him aboard the ship. Yeah.
I love it. Let's just do nothing but Star Trek references the next time
That's
we
right.
hang out. We will
That's
be
right.
together at the London Partner Summit as well, having Deloitte on Security Live again. We are out of time for this one though, Naresh. Thank you so much for joining. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Absolutely fantastic conversation. We'll see you all next time on Security Live.